Hello everyone, good day. Before anything else, allow me to introduce myself first before I'm sharing to you the content of this video. By the way, I am Mary Victor Billy, a third year student taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Filipino. So for today's video is I will be sharing and imparting my ideas and learnings from all the topics discussed on the subject at 305, and this will serve as a summary of all the topics discussed that are related to a 305 subject, which is all about the educational assessment of students. Well, it is more in students' assessment and the type of assessments to be used. Let us first hear about the higher order thinking, problem solving, and critical thinking. To assess higher order thinking, it is proper or the correct thing to do is let the students perform or do a task that requires them to think, that requires them to open their minds and use their knowledge for a specific task or goal. So once a student has a higher order thinking ability, problem solving follows and critical thinking as well. It is where students' knowledge and ability are being applied and used to solve problems by thinking critically. For example, reading. Being a good reader also involves thinking. Why? Because once we read, we need to understand and comprehend on what we are reading for us to internalize and grasp something on what we've read. And now let us talk about evaluating and grading student achievement. Why students are being graded? Why there is such a thing as grading? Well, the main purpose of grading is to know about the student's improvement and achievement in every quarter and throughout the whole school year. The performance and status of a student is being reflected through its grades. That is why when parents want to know how their child's performance status are in school, teachers show them the report card. So every task a student is assigned to do, performances being done is being graded according to how well they perform. And that grading is based on a rubric. So there is a rubric which helps teachers determine the accurateness and appropriateness of the student's performance. And at the end of every quarter, teachers prepare the report card that contains the students' grades of all the subjects they have. This is another way of reporting the student's achievement. And for the parents to be informed, we have the conferences which is done once every quarter. And this conference, which is also called as a parent-teacher conference, is important to monitor the student's development and achievement. But when conducting a conference, there should be a consideration on the parents' side especially. It's because we should consider their time, schedules, and backgrounds as well to consider their family's privacy. So a lot of things to consider to not create a problem. We all know that parents are very busy, but when it comes to attending meetings related to school, they are eager to attend because they are curious on the performance of their children, which is why, despite being busy, they still find time to attend. Therefore, when scheduling a conference or meeting, it is important to consider the parents' situations and schedules. In grading, there is what we call the self-reference or growth-based grading. So what does this mean? This means that students may or will grade their own performance so that they will be able to know and determine how their performance turns out and for them to compare their recent performance and to their previous performance if there is any changes and improvement. It is a way of letting the students know how far or how broad their knowledge and understanding and their capability has come through. Now let us move on to determining grade boundaries. Grade boundaries is pertaining to a minimum mark a student need to obtain for a particular grade. When giving an exam or assessment, grade boundaries help determine whether a student's score reached the boundary or below the boundary level. For a student to pass, he or she should reach the boundary or above the boundary score. And now, if a student does not obtain a passing score, a student might feel the meaning of failure. So, what are these terms, by the way? The meaning of failure has two classifications. It is the failing to achieve and failing to try. When we say failing to achieve, it means that when you have a goal or when a student have a goal, you are very determined that you can do it. Therefore, you did your best, but it seems that it was not good enough, which leads you to failing. You try, but you failed to achieve the goal you are aiming. How about the other one, which is failing to try? Failing to try means that you did not even bother to think of trying. For example, a student wanted to have good grades. She knows better than others that for her to have good grades, it is to study hard, comply any requirements required, and participate in every activity given. But despite knowing all of this, she just sits still without even trying to do any of what is being mentioned. That is what failing to try is. She failed to try even she knows that she can do it. Going on, let us dig deeper on the scholastic aptitude, career interests, attitudes, and personality test of a student. Scholastic aptitude assessments describe a learner's general intellectual skills rather than a specific school achievement. So aptitude tests assess students' learned behavior and not their innate ability. It is administered to students to assess their achievement, learnings, and understanding. And upon giving this, students are expected to be much better on the next assessment to be done, their future assessment, and future performances. Aptitude tests are useful predictors of future school success, partly because schools have not been very adaptive to individual learners. In aptitude tests, students receive the same instruction and conditions every year. Students are not given different kind of instruction, but they only have one for every student individually. Moving forward, let us discuss and widen our idea on the assessment of adaptive behavior. So, adaptive behavior is focusing on how one can independently care for themselves and adapt with the demands of real life situations of everyday life. Students are being, or should we call it, being trained and allowing them to do hands on experience that makes them prepared and ready in the battle outside of their zone. So, whatever career or field they want to take on their next journey, while they are still in high school, they are being harnessed already. They will be given some activities through questionnaires to assess their choice of vocation and career interest. So, during this time, their high school years, students' career interests could be influenced by those surrounding them and might be not their own chosen path or field. So when we talk about knowing the students' preferences or interest, it should not be out from pressure or from a suggestion from peers and family members, but the student's choice itself, since it is the student who will study and explore whatever career he/she want to take up. So just a while ago, I have mentioned about the student's career interest. Now I want to share with you that there are four types of interest, and these are the expressed, manifested, tested, and inventoried interest. I want to share what each interest means one by one. Let us start first with the expressed interest. Expressed interest refers to the interest of a student being obtained by asking them directly about it. It is the same as having a one-on-one conversation or interview with a student and asking them questions about their career interest. Second is the manifested interest, which means that a student's career interest can be inferred and determined based on what a student actually does. For example, if a senior high school student is taking computer system servicing, which is under the technical vocational livelihood strand, we can infer that he or she will probably enroll in computer related courses once he or she enters college. Third is the tested interest. So this interest is inferred from the results of assessing students' knowledge, which means that students' career path could be based on how knowledgeable he or she is. And lastly is the inventoried interest. This interest means that it can be identified with a paper and pencil test, so assessing students' career interest through interest inventories. So to conclude everything, I could say that any type of assessment is very important in molding and building a good foundation in every student's life. Helping them with any possible ways while they are still in school is the greatest contribution a teacher can impart to each of the students they have. So different assessments is being used with every teachers to suit with every student's capability and needs, and through the assessments and the teachers who did their best in harnessing students' talents, abilities and skills, every students wouldn't have regret after they graduate, but instead they will feel grateful because they will be leaving the school equipped with the knowledge and skills they can use as a shield in the battle of a real world of work. So that could be all for my sharing or the summary about the topic discussed related to the subject at 305.